Perfect. How's everything going with you?
Good, good and busy.
Good.
Yeah. Every time I step outside or go to, I always talking to visitors and always give them a rundown, and they're like, "Oh, it's so good to run into you." I said, "Sure." I mean, it's just a lot of people down now, and a
Funny
lot of them don't
you're
have a clue.
what's that?
Some of them, don't know for sure about stuff, or they didn't know. Like you got to go to the local soda, to eat.
Mm.
What's that? Oh, let me tell you. But yeah,
It
so I'm
takes
always
several years of living in a foreign country and meeting the right people that connect you to the right places.
right.
I still go back every now and then to Colombia and visit, and every year, every 2 years, I'll go back, and it's almost like every time I'm back, someone tells me about something that I didn't know about, and I thought
Right.
originally that I knew everything because I'd been there for so long, But
Yeah.
I'm continuously hearing about new restaurants and things going in that I didn't know about before. So it's,
Right.
but, but
You
yeah.
you
So
can hear
tell
me
me,
okay?
yeah, I hear you perfect. It's absolutely
Okay.
perfect. It's funny you're in a furniture store. I used to do quite a bit. I had a furniture business for 12 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I remember you told me that.
one of my first international sales was in Costa Rica. It wasn't the first one. My first one was in Venezuela. I cannot remember the company that came in, but it was a big Costa Rican company that came into one of our showrooms and bought a container from me there in San Jose, and I cannot remember the name of that, but I know it was one of the
Oh,
bigger
wow.
ones that was there. So interesting, you're in a furniture store. But hey, why don't you tell us how how you ended up in Costa Rica and the story behind how you got with Howler Magazine, which I believe is the biggest magazine in Costa Rica for tourists, and how you got into that business.
Yeah, my twin brother actually came here like 13 years ago. He did his research and he was in a position to where he could, go wherever. And he looked at one country, another country, and he came to Costa Rica and kept coming back. So he settled here. And every year I would come down and visit, and, get to know the place. And, uh, you know, it wasn't, I didn't know it was going to be such a quick turnaround, but 6 years ago, I ended up having an opportunity to come down and work here.
Mhm.
And I said, yeah, I can do it because I was just happened to be without a job, first time ever in my life. And I had an opportunity already laid out here with Howler Magazine and some other endeavors. And so I've been here 6 years. I've got a youngest daughter and three grandkids and her husband who live here. I have an oldest granddaughter, her husband, and great grandson who live here. So
Wow.
I got almost most of my family here. So that adds to the um, likability of being here.
Yeah,
And
makes things a little easier, huh?
yeah, to have them close and Haller, I've been talking to them. I'm gonna move down here one day and I'll take care of your marketing because I've
Yeah.
ever since my high school days always been in public relations, and I was a Navy journalist for 8 years and always did public relations related things. So I started Haller marketing, and things changed tremendously. I don't know if you don't get in the history yet, but it's with COVID. It used to be a printed magazine, and David Mills started it in 1986,
Was
and
an
it's just a
American
little
guy?
two page handout. Actually, what it was, and mainly Tamarindo is what it mainly did, and it quickly grew to more of a magazine stage publication, as you call it, and
Yeah.
but at, before COVID, there was 2,500 copies printed and distributed mainly from Tamarindo to Playa Coco over here in the Guanacaste region of Costa Rica, which is only about an hour away from Liberia Airport, International Airport. And the online presence was not really marketed that much. And I remember in 2020, when COVID hit, I forgot when that was, the print shop closed down. So we kept publishing and worked on the online presence. We already had an online magazine, so we improved that. And that was actually a good turning point because in the last 4 years we have had over 10 million unique readers of the magazine, which we
Wow.
never would have had that if we were still in print because print is so limited. And so we really exploded. We're about to launch a new website here in a couple months, something a little quicker, but it has been tremendous to watch. We had, of course, advertisers drop out during that season, but we ate popcorn a lot, had watered down lemonade, and we kept publishing the good news of Costa Rica all during that time. So that's kind of like where we're at now. It's been quite the journey.
And so are they in the magazine, are they discussing mostly just hotspots, travel hotspots in Costa Rica? Or are you kind of doing Costa
Well,
Rica across the board, or what's
yeah,
the goal?
it's got like 8 different categories. And it's all interactive magazine now. You can look at the magazine, and we kind of designed that. I mean, you got voice that can come on and welcome you to that business or that story. I mean, it's interactive, and Matt, we have been so conditioned by social media that we quit doing 4 or 5 pages of one story. And actually, when you're going through the magazine, you have a beautiful photo, a headline, and a paragraph button. Click here for more. Just kind of if you're not interested, you just turn the page. If you're interested, you click it and it goes to the website. And that's where we get over 400,000 reads a month, and 200,000 translations a month. Actually, last year we had over 2 million translation requests, which is real cool to know that different languages are reading. But we cover like 8 major categories. Travel ventures, number 1. Real estate is number 2. And then we have the Pura Vida living, arts, culture, and entertainment. And then we have recipes and dining, show you how to make some Costa Rican favorites, fashion, wildlife, which is very popular down here with all the wildlife things going on. The business sections has business and also a lot of legal information. And then the fashion, and we can't forget the surfing section, which is, real big here in Costa Rica. So we cover a whole gamut of information, over 1,000 articles. We update them when we have to. So it's the only magazine like it. Real estate magazine comes out once a quarter, once every 6 months, and it's just real estate, but we cover the whole everything.
So it's an all-encompassing, like, one-stop shop for anyone interested in Costa Rica in any way,
doing
basically.
Some research. Right.
And so that said, I'd love to get into talking about some of the most adventurous and off the path destinations. I know a lot of people that I've talked to just in my personal life, they end up going to Costa Rica for like whitewater rafting, or they go for surfing, or one particular thing that they seem to go for. And then for some reason that country just sucks them in, and they never leave. But yeah, I haven't been there myself. I've just heard a ton about Costa Rica over the years. And I'd like to just kind of get into some of the any off the beaten paths or adventure spots that you recommend for the first timers coming down.
Well, the great thing about Costa Rica is the diversity in it. I mean, you can go here if you fly into Liberia Airport. There's 2 international airports.
That's in San Jose.
San Jose, SJO, and then LIR for Liberia. And I'm an hour away from Liberia. I've got, within 20 minutes, I've got over 24 beautiful beaches to go to, from the popular tourist ones to the private, to those that only a few people know about. And when you talk about adventures, they range from putting up a hammock at a isolated beach to scuba diving off of Coco's Island, because it takes you like a day to sail there, or climbing up to Mount Chirripó, which is like almost 4,000 meters. You can do a hike all the way across from the Pacific side to the Caribbean side. The adventures, we have a magazine just for all the adventures. There's over 40 that you can choose from, and I'll include that link, give that link to you. And it can, but also we list things that are like non-adventurous. I mean, there's museums. If you really want to know Costa Rica, you got the coffee tours, the cocoa tours, sugarcane processing. That's where you get to really see some of the things that made, people have been doing that for hundreds of years here in Costa Rica. But you got the zip lining, horseback riding, ATV, and all that, jet skis, snorkeling is huge. And of course, like you said, the surfing, and I'm a little older, so all I do is boogie board now. And I was actually riding waves last week that were 4 to 5 foot tall. And my friend said, "Do you really want to try that?" I said, yeah, I'll do that for you. And it's just a 1 minute walk for me from where I live. Yeah. So when it comes to adventures, you got a variety from just the cultural slow things, going to indigenous tribe, visit them, see what the local resources they make. Like about an hour away from me is the pottery capital of Guanacaste. You can watch them make the pottery, and then buy some original souvenirs to take back with you. Those things are very cultural. They're not activities, but they are certainly events that you can do with your family. So there's a whole range. And
Yeah,
like I
so
said, that
it's
magazine
you
lists
basically
out.
have to first narrow down what kind of things you like to do, and then
Right.
narrow down where you'd like to do it. And
Right.
yeah,
And
this
and then also from here, about an hour away or 2 hours away is Arnall. And that's a whole different type of climate. When it's hot and dry here in this part of Guanacaste, you can drive 2 hours to be up there. Another hour and a half, 2 hours away from here, I can get to the hot springs, the waterfalls. So, that's kind of why I like this area. And every region has, different things that they offer. The Caribbean side has their items, a little wider looking beaches, and you can't see sloths in the wild here in Guanacaste, but there are regions where you can go to do a jungle tour and see the sloths. You can see them at some of the rescue places that are located. You can see a sloth that's been rescued. And so it all depends on what you want to do, how long you're going to be here, and do some research.
yeah, and Guanacaste, if I'm not mistaken, is the border town between Costa Rica and Nicaragua. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes. Yep. That's about a 2 hour drive to get to Nicaragua if you have. And, yeah, it's right on the Pacific side, north part of Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think someone told me that right on Guanacaste's really, really well developed, and then they're trying to develop the Nicaraguan side to kind of drive some
Could be.
traffic into Nicaragua as well, is what I heard.
Yeah. Well, and you got different, even in Guanacaste, you have, I don't want to get any town in trouble by calling it a tourist trap, but some people like the touristy thing.
Yeah.
Well, you've got those, and then you've got the laid back communities. Personally, I used to go on not every Saturday, but I made a goal to drive and get off the beaten path and just go into a community, and you'd always find the chapel, the city square where they played soccer. You had the soda. You have a grocery store, and then that's how you get to really see. Not everything is touristy in this area. Brasilito is a beautiful you call it a tourist town, but it's not jam packed. And, everybody's trying to sell you stuff off the street and things like that. There, when I say Guanacaste, it is developed. It is, I think, one of the number one travel destinations for adventures. And then, yeah, Nicaragua, they've got. I had some friends. I've just been across the border and back. That's all I've been. But I have friends who go up there, and it's some beautiful locations there also.
And where do most people kind of land when they come from the states and they go down for the typical American 7 day vacation, which in my opinion is way too short to actually get to know a place. But either way, that when they come down for the 7 day vacation, where do people typically go? Is it like Jaco in those areas?
Well, that's one of those famous places that attracts a lot of tourists. It really depends on what kind of experience you're looking for. It all depends on your age. I remember watching one video last year. Why we're leaving Costa Rica, and there's a young couple with a baby, and they picked the two touristy towns, and they're riding off Costa Rica because they didn't like those two towns. It was more expensive. The food was outrageously priced. Everything was gone up in price. And generally, it has gone up in price. It's not like it was even 6 years ago. I bought some chicken this week, and I said, "Boy, I remember when it used to be X amount of colognes." And so it all depends if you want the wild adventure, or if you got a family, or if it's just you and your spouse, or you and your best friend, or whatever it is. It's really going to depend on what you're looking for.
But if they read the magazine, they're gonna learn all that and be able to plan the trip a
Yeah,
little
it's
easier.
it's it, a little easier, and like I said, it all depends on everybody's interest. You know, some people just want to unplug and get away. I was walking on the beach a couple of weeks ago, and two kids were sitting under a tent, and they were on their phones. And I was like, "Oh, come on, man! I got a boogie board. Come on!" And they were looking at me funny. Then I realized they were from Norway, and they didn't understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
Get off your phone and take a look around and see what's going on around you. Learn about this place.
Yeah, yeah. And I see that all over the world. People. Uh, I just don't understand, especially if you're going to the islands or the beaches with all that activity and
Right.
adventure there is to do. Why you want to sit on Instagram all day? Don't have any idea. You can do that at night in the hotel room.
Yeah, yeah. It's you can find a nice, quiet, remote beach, uh, uh, and put up a hammock or just put out a big towel. Have your cooler there with your refreshments and listen to the birds. I was doing that last weekend, and the canary looking birds were singing. There was nobody out at the beach. I went there early enough. Tranquility. It's
Yep.
it's nice. Didn't even have my phone.
Yep. So for those expats and let's say retirees, there's a lot of retirees that want to move out of the states and go to Latin America or different places around the world for different reasons. But a lot of them, when I talk to them, a lot of guys are looking to preserve uh, their retirement account or trying to go somewhere where they're not going to eat up all the value um, in their retirement account, or they don't have that and they're just trying to live off Social Security. You're saying they can still find some towns in Costa Rica where that's possible?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, our January feature in Howler is Why Costa Rica, and we have several articles that help you decide, which region. What's your intentions? Are you going to buy a property and use it for rental property, and then have a place to come for? We call them snowbirds, people
Yep.
who escape North America to come down where it's warm. Or are you looking to be an expat? And believe it or not, there are people here in Costa Rica, expats, who are not running away from a three initial organization, the FBI, CIA, or
Yep.
IRS. There are people here who are not ticked off at America or,
Right.
or, or Canada. They just found an opportunity to relocate somewhere. So, but there are places, and once again, some places have skyrocketed on their land values, property values, their home values, but there are still, it all depends on how you want to live. I'm single, so I would be good with as long as I got AC and running water. I'm good. But if you want, you've got everything from $100,000 homes up to $1 million homes that are available, or you can build yourself. And the magazine talks about all those options and what you can prepare for.
What were some of those, if you don't mind, that would accommodate the guy that's trying to live off his Social Security and make it to the finish line with just that? What are some of those towns that you'd recommend for those types of guys?
Towns, once again, all based on what you're, how you want to live. I'm not talking about living in a shack. I'm in a nice place myself for $900 a month.
Wow.
Of course, it's rental right now, but just some of the smaller towns. And when it comes to talking with realtors, and we've got some in the Howler Magazine, and they'll walk you through. It's not really a sort of a license type thing, but there is one license that they need to have. They've had issues with people selling you a house and it wasn't even the person's house to sell. So you got to be careful, be wise, and find a good attorney. And usually, how people do that is I'm interested in such and such. If you go on Facebook, if you do some research, like use our magazine as a great starting point. And if you go on Facebook and you type in, and here's what people do, and they get lambasted real quick. I've got $1 million to buy, or $600,000 to buy a place, and of course the price of everything just jumped up to
Yep.
$600,000, even though it was actually down here. So don't do that, but just ask for referrals, and because word of mouth is valuable. Same way with getting legal assistance, contractors, so you can. Some of those towns, Potrero, and just in my region, is what I can speak to. There's other towns, Cartagena, which is in Guanacaste, small, really, it's not touched by Costa Ricans. Arnall is very popular. Atenas as you get towards Central Valley. So it just takes some, looking around and just figuring out what you want to pay for.
I think what you just said is very typical all over Latin America in my experience of guys from this coming down, and there's a lot of opportunistic people in Latin America, and if you come down and say,
Everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere,
Yeah.
but in Latin America, it could be the taxi driver, right? There's no
Right.
license required, like you just said, for real estate. So if you come down and tell your taxi driver, the first guy that picks you up at the airport, that you have 600,000, well, all of a sudden his aunt's house, it's really worth 50, is all of a sudden going to be worth 600,000, and
Right.
his nephew is the real estate agent, can help you make that purchase. Um, yeah,
You just got to do your due diligence. This is what you got to do.
that's right.
And people argue, tour different areas first, talk to different people. You can join Facebook groups. Just be prepared because there's haters on there. There's
Yep.
bitter expats.
Yep.
That's one of the ugly things you got. There, some people get a bad taste in their mouth just because of expats' poor attitudes when they ask a question, and they're just asking a question. But then don't buy first. Rent is kind of one thing.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got a different opinion when it comes to that.
Well,
But look around.
I've said the same thing because it takes you so long to figure out who the right people are that are going to take care of you. You can't get that done in a 7-day trip or even a couple of months
No,
trip or a 6-month trip. It
no.
takes a little while to come down and figure out who the trustworthy people are in order to feel comfortable making those big purchases. So I've always said, rent, don't buy until you're extremely
Right.
sure that you know
Right.
that's where you want to be,
Well,
right?
if you come here, like our area, we have 5 months of rain normally. If you come here during that, you go, this is terrible. It's raining almost every day. Well,
Yep.
of course, this past year was heavy rain, but also go at a couple different times during the year to see what the climate's like and things like that. Some people don't. I'm used to Texas weather, so I'm used to walking in a block and being covered with sweat. That's no problem. But if you don't like that, the higher elevations away from the beaches is going to be your best bet. So once again, it's based on what you're comfortable with.
Mhm. Yeah, I find, I think in the States we grow up and it's just in our blood to grow up to buy a house, right? We're not renting, we're buying, and we even do that when we go internationally. And I've seen a lot of guys, that regret that decision, and
Right.
it's so easy to go to a place, especially in Latin America and many places around the world. And you go there for 7 days, you go there for a month and a half. Like, I love that place. I'm going to move there. I'm going to live there the rest of my life. And then,
Yep.
but there's levels to this thing. It's like that first month and a half or that first week when you went down there, you didn't even have to go wash the laundry, right? You didn't even have to go figure out where
Right.
to do your laundry. So
Or standing.
there was no
Yeah.
real stress, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then the next level, I mean, I'm just making this up as I go along, but for me, the next level was, okay, now I'm going to get a cell phone plan. And I'm going to get a cell phone plan because it's only $10 a month for a better plan than I had in the US, and I was paying 150. So I'm going to get this $10 cell phone plan. Well, that's all cool, but now you realize the online system doesn't work. Well, this was in like Colombia, Mexico, other places I've been. You're trying to pay your cell phone bill online. Well, the online system doesn't work. So the only way to get your cell phone turned back on is to walk down there and stand in line. Well, now you're standing in line in Latin America where no one's in a hurry. And it's taking you 3.5 hours to pay your cell phone bill. And you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this every month. So there's these things that happen when you're truly living in a place, or, you know, errands that you have to do. Once you start running errands like
Right.
you would do in the States, that's when you really figure out, like, do I really want to, so,
Well, that's one of the articles I wrote was My Costa Rica, the good, bad, and the ugly. A lot of publications and people just want to promote the good,
yep.
and there's a lot of great things. Don't get me wrong, but there's some areas that are bad and just downright ugly. You could be at the bank from 30 minutes to 3 hours. That's just ugly. You've got some corruption and bureaucracy. You've got some contractors who you pay and you never see them again. So we published that just to let people know there are some things you got to deal with, because no country is perfect, and even though Costa Rica's in the top 10 list off a lot of surveys and, interest things, it's not perfect. But if you can deal with the bad and the ugly, and your attitude is we can make this work, then there's possibility for you. I think the average is 3 years before people pack up and leave. A big majority, I forgot the exact percentage, but within 3 years, certain number of people say
Move
I've
on.
had it.
Yeah, and I
And maybe
noticed.
they just wanted a season. Maybe they just wanted a short season or whatever. But I knew one family. They visited and they said, "We're moving." And 2 months later, they were here. 2 months later, they got broken into, and that totally shattered them. And 2 weeks later, they were back in the States.
Yep,
I mean, those things happen.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I used to always Colombia is one of the easiest places in the world that you could live in terms of them just making everything so convenient for you. You can order a doctor that'll come to your house, a nurse will come to your house, you can get an IV to your anything that you could possibly need in your life, groceries. There's a million grocery delivery people. I don't know if you have Rappi in Costa Rica, but Rappi is a Colombian company, and pre-pandemic, I would have told you it was the absolute best company in the world. You could order antibiotic pharmacy, you can get them to go to the ATM for you. You name it, they will bring it to your house in a matter of minutes. And
Wow.
so my buddy used to always tell me, he's like, I can't believe you order groceries on Rappi. It's like 2,000 pesos more per item for them to bring it to you. Well, 2,000 pesos is about 50. So I said to him, well, okay, well, if I order 20 items and it costs, it's not, I don't even know if it's 50 cents, but it's actually not 2,000. You end up paying about 20,000 pesos more about every order for them to deliver it to me. And that's maybe $5. And I pay a monthly, or I used to pay a monthly subscription fee of like $6 or $7 to get the deliveries for free. So you pay $7 and then you pay roughly $5 for this big grocery store order for them to bring it to you. And I said, man, it's worth $5 for me not to have to go stand in those ridiculous lines, because if you get behind four people in a grocery store line in the US, for instance, well, you're through the line in 2 minutes, right? It's
Right.
fast. It's like, hey, they ring you up, boom, gone. Well, if you get
Not
behind
here.
four people in Colombia, it might be 30 minutes because the cashier's got to take a call and talk to her cousin that's, got something going on. And then the four people in line are asking 37 questions to the cashier. And you're like, I just spent 30 minutes in this line behind four people. And that doesn't count the time that it took you to walk down the aisles and all that, where no one even
Right.
noticed you were behind them. So no one got out of your way. And so it's worth $5 for me to pay that for them to deliver to my house. But those are small things. I could go on probably as you can for the next hour about those little small things that will drive you crazy as an expat if you don't figure out how to navigate around them.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
well,
for me,
if
it
you
was to
want,
pay the extra $5.
right, if you want a Walmart, an Albertsons, a name brand restaurant, big grocery store, if you want that on every corner here in Costa Rica, don't come here
Yeah.
because we don't have it now. Now, San Jose, the Central Valley, you can find all that, but out here, you're not going to have, gas station on every corner. And if you cannot deal with having that disconnect with all the stores. If you're one of those people who just got to go to Bucky's. Now, that's personally my favorite.
Do you have a
I'll go
Bucky's
to
in Costa
Bucky's.
Rica?
No, we don't. That's usually my second stop when I go back to the States after a certain steakhouse. But if you want those amenities, right around the corner, you're not going to have that here.
Yeah.
And if you can't handle that, this is not for you. If you don't like snakes and insects,
Not for you.
Costa Rica is not for you.
Yeah.
So,
Just keep it to a 7-day vacation if those are things that
yeah.
you don't like. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's what definitely one of those things that you're just not gonna. It's just not gonna be the same as it is living in the States. And one of the things that I have loved about my Latin American experience is, for the best meats, you typically don't go to the regular grocery store. You go to the meat store, right?
Mhm.
If you want to buy a steak or something, you go to the actual meat store and buy your steak. And then you
Right.
can buy, for me, buying vegetables from the farmer's market is amazing. And I've had farmer's markets basically everywhere in Latin America that I've ever been. They do like a Sunday farmer's market in almost every city or town that I've been to.
Right.
So those are things we may have those types of things in the US, but you don't have a dedicated meat store that I know of, and not
Right.
not easily accessible. And if you do have that, it's two or three, four times the price. So I don't know. Those are just yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. Of these are just small things that take take a year or two
Mhm.
to start figuring out.
And people ask, do I need to ship all my stuff or wait to buy down here? There's plenty of places like my friend's place here that you can buy furniture. But what the move actually helps people do is declutter some of their life, their material things. All my life, I'm a little over 60, and all my stuff is in two suitcases in my daughter's house in
Yep.
Texarkana,
Yep.
Arkansas. I mean, that's just me.
Yep.
But it helps people declutter. There are great, do I buy a car here? Do I ship it? All those questions you can, find answers to. Um, but we do have running water here. We do have Wi-Fi. We do have electricity. Sometimes it clicks off some. We had the office that I manage here for a Houston company. It's about every other day we'll have a power glitch, and that's just part of the experience. Uh,
Yeah, and then one of the things that I've found interesting about many parts of Latin America that I've been to is sometimes the hot water goes out and you have cold water, but there's no hot
yeah.
water. And Americans aren't used to showering in cold water, so it just becomes it can become a huge issue if you're not prepared for it.
Well, even to have a bathtub. Uh, a lot of people, and if you build or you can have one put in, but a lot of places, the hotels and things like that, B&Bs, usually a shower if you want your bath time.
Mhm.
um, Maybe you got a spa or something, but that's one of the things that's kind of different down here. um, but there's um there's opportunities. There's the good, bad, and the ugly. We talked all about that, but if you don't make the opportunity, Matt, to visit the people, then you've missed
Absolutely.
the number one thing of Costa Rica.
There's no
And
reason to
that's one
go.
thing that's, if you just hang out with expats all the time, and you just, if you don't go to the local soda. I have executives that come down from Houston, and
What's a soda,
there's
by the
three.
way? I don't know what that is.
That's a great. It's usually in a bottle or a can. No, the soda down here in Costa Rica is your local food, your local cafe,
Yeah.
where you can get your rice and beans and a salad and a grilled chicken, or the riblets, and you put a little Lozano sauce on there and you mix it together. I mean, uh, there's one in particular we always go to. It doesn't look like much of a place. It's right on the beach. I get a red snapper. I get the plantains with the black bean, and the cheese on top. All the Houston folks that come here with the company I'm involved in, I take them to the sodas. It's the local people food. That's part of the experience. But we have people. I'm involved with a church, and we have people that actually come down. We're going to be down there for 2 weeks. We want to do something in the community for some. Do you have resources? Do you got places we can contact? And we have feeding centers. We have people's houses that are being, we had a flood here in November, and there's people that help rebuild and places. But getting to know the people, that's the number one thing. We even have a sponsor, the local men's softball at Brasilito, and the Nicaraguan men and expats have started coming, and it's kind of funny. The expats, yeah, we're gonna go play these guys, and they get beat.
Yeah.
it's oh, really? They beat y'all? Yeah, we won one, but then they won the next three.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I watch those expat folks interacting with uh, the Nico. We call them Nicos, Nicaraguans. There's a lot here that work here, and some Costa Ricans. But pickleball. We have Costa Ricans playing pickleball with us, which is real big down here. So and our pickleball group teaches the local kids how to play pickleball. So anything to get involved with kids, we got people that will bring sports equipment down, fresh volleyballs, new volleyballs, and some of the things you see them playing with. And they love it. Find a way to interact with the locals.
Yeah. There's a famous quote, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but I read it a long time ago. It said something along the lines of, if you're going to reject the people, the food, and the customs, there's no reason to go. Just stay home.
Stay home. Stay home.
And there's
Stay.
many places around the world that you might go to and not like the food. You just, for whatever reason, but you need to experience it because there's so much education in food.
Right.
Um,
Well,
there's so
that's
much
why
about the
the
place.
the the trips to I like the pottery tour. You're a guy, you like pottery. No, it's just neat to watch what has been passed down for generation to generation, and to watch them create it, or to watch the sugar cane being made, or the coffee plantation. I mean, coffee is huge here, and to watch how they make it, and especially chocolate. Now that's no, I like
You're a
the
sweets guy, I
chocolate.
could tell,
uh,
huh?
but that way you get to experience the people, the culture, and it's different than, jet skiing, or, I mean, there's things you can do here that you can do in the States. So what's different that you can do? There's plenty of things to do that, to meet people.
Yeah, and so how do they reach out to you guys if, I don't know what kind of services do you guys provide other than, the magazine, or do you have services, or is your service just telling people and about the country in
Yeah,
general?
the variety of articles, and then we have, of course, advertisers that. So, of course, when someone asks me about a realtor, I tell them, of course, one of our advertisers. That's the way it goes. When it comes to travel services, that's another article in January's edition. I don't know when for sure this is going to, but when it comes to travel, do you plan your own travel yourself? Do you use your service? How are you going to do that? We've got some resources to help you figure that out. If you're coming down for a vacation, do you do the all-inclusive resort, or do some people like that approach where they got tours available. Margaritaville is right here, and they set you up and take you to all the tour places. And there's others. Do you want to do that, or you want to go to a hotel, rent a car, go to a B&B? So yeah, we just provide the information, and of course we got some good sponsors that make Howler possible.
And
Uh,
obviously, if you guys are recommending real estate agents, these are trustworthy people that have already been vetted, so they're not going to have to.
yeah,
They're not getting a
they've been
taxi
here.
driver off the street, obviously.
They've been here many years. Matt, there's every industry can get a black eye by one jerk.
Yep.
Okay, so to say that you might get ripped off, I mean, that's a possibility. But most people have good intentions, and they're not going to purposely lead you astray. That's why you get referrals, get recommendations, and don't believe everything you read on Facebook. Apparently now you can, but
We've recently changed that. I saw that too. Jesus.
yeah. So it's been a fun journey. I'll be here till probably I croak.
Yeah.
Most likely I'm involved in another company that uh, we got 6 employees that do contract property analytics for a Houston company, and that company is actually bringing in some other jobs and other companies into Costa Rica. So that's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah. Speaking of being there until you croak, there's just something about this warm, welcoming Latino culture. Not just Costa Rica, but just Latin America in general. That when Americans or Westerners, I guess Canadians I've met as well, come down and experience it, many people just don't want to leave, and almost
Yeah.
no one wants to leave, and many don't, like probably you and I.
Yeah, it's just I'm not looking to go anywhere. I'll stay here. I got 3 good things that invested myself in,
Yep.
and I'll be here.
Yeah. Well, Terry, it was incredible talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I know you'll put the link to the website, and
Absolutely.
check out that travel and adventure, because it's like over 40. They're all together, and you can click to go to a travel tour company that will book that for you. But just to give you an idea, come on down, take a look, see what Pura Vida is all like. And that word actually means good life, is what it means.
And
And it
my advice is
originated,
if you're the all inclusive guy that wants to come in and do 100% all inclusive, at least take a couple of days and get out into the real
right.
culture. And if you're a Margaritaville guy, go one day and then go 2 days to the local Costa Rican spot would be my advice. But hey, to each
Yeah.
his own.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nice things to do. You come here to the Flamingo Marina. I'm looking out. I see the rolling green hills. I see a very expensive looking yacht there. I didn't know if that was yours or not, but the fishing boats, but then you walk down just 1 kilometer, and you've got 2 sodas
Yeah.
right on the beach. And just so it's a good place to be this area here. So
Speaking of yachts, I'm a yacht broker in Miami, actually. So if you find
shameless
anybody,
plug.
yeah, just trying to plug that in there. If you know anybody buying or selling yachts, let me know.
Yeah, I'll take a look around.
Yeah,
Actually, after work, I'll come down and take a walk around. We just finished the holiday season, and this place was packed.
yeah,
People coming, and they're locals coming from the Central Valley, and every night, I mean, it was packed down here, and
yeah.
it was neat just to sit. Had nice cool breeze,
Mhm.
and and then some people know English, and that's the thing about our region. Uh, Almost everybody speaks English or can communicate with you, which is going to be different in various areas that you go. Some places, if you know Espanol, you you got to use a Google Translator.
Yeah, well,
But
Costa Rica as a whole, I think, has been known as one of the easiest places in Latin America for an American to go because you don't have to know much of the language to get from A to B, and at least in the big touristy spots.
see, that's been another question that the answer is C.
Well,
Yeah,
that'll get you a long way. See and know, you know.
are in trouble.
Exactly.
I know enough to get in trouble.
Yeah, me too. I've been in a lot of it. Well, Terry, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity, Matt.
Absolutely. Have a good day. Don't hang up on me yet.